Penn has been a fairly open atheist for a very long time.
He's a devout atheist.
I've always said, that I don't respect people who don't proselytize. I don't respect that at all. If you believe that there's a heaven and hell, and people could be going to hell or not getting eternal life or whatever, and you think that, it's not really worth telling them this because it would make it socially awkward. How much do you have to hate somebody to not proselytize?
That's great.
How much would you have to hate somebody to not tell them about Jesus?
Kind of cooking.
This is great. Listen, if you're...
Ruslan.
Penn from Penn Teller makes a shocking, bold proclamation about how he believes Christians should behave when interacting with atheists and non-believers. And this is really interesting. So if you guys aren't familiar with who Penn Teller is, they used to have a show, I want to say on HBO, called BS, and they were just kind of exposing different BS stuff, and then they had their own magic show where people would come, and if they couldn't figure out the magic trick or how it worked, the illusion worked, they would win the show, basically, and a handful of people won. And so they've been in this circuit for a very long time, and I believe Penn has been a fairly open atheist for a very long time.
He's a devout atheist.
Yeah, devout atheist. But there's this video, and it was this is like viral before it was viral. This video specifically. This is a long time ago.
Yeah.
And he put this up, I want to say on YouTube. This is old throwback. And someone said this to me, and I was like, man, this is actually a pretty dope video and a pretty good perspective, I think, from an atheist to have towards Christians. Like, I think there's a spectrum within atheism. There's new atheism, and then there's like old atheism. And like, I think he sounds like an old atheist kind of guy, right? Like, he sounds like before like religion was the issue with everything. He's like, I just don't believe in your God, and then he's gonna break down.
No, he's definitely a new atheist guy.
You think he's a new atheist guy?
No, because he says at the end.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of problems with religion.
Maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. Maybe that's what I'm saying. Okay, go ahead and play this. Let's jump into it.
I talk to you about this. I get home from the show, and at the end of the show, as I've mentioned before, we go out and we talk to folks, and sign an occasional autograph and shake hands and so on. And there was one guy waiting over to the side in the what I call the hover position. After I was all done, big guy, probably about my age. Big guy.
Oh, that's hurting feelings.
Why you gotta drive home the point?
That's hurting feelings, man. He's
Big guy.
He said, big guy over in the corner. Big guy.
Big guy. What was the big guy? Why we gotta know this?
He was like, that was a big dude. Like,
That was a big
his
boy.
internal monologue was like, that was a big boy.
It's so random. He like really doubled down on the big guy.
And he had been the guy who picks the joke during our psychic comedian section of the show. So he had the props from that in his hand because we'd give those away. He had the joke book and the envelope and the paper and stuff. If you haven't seen the live show, it's not worth explaining. But he had props from the show that we'd given him from the night before. He wasn't the guy that night. And he walked over to me and he said, I was here last night at the show, and I saw the show and I liked it. And he was very complimentary.
Pause it.
About my
I like that they, back then, they were pretty, they were pretty big, but I like that they made themselves accessible to people somewhat. I don't know if this dude just kind of knew where they went out backstage. I don't know if this is like a after meet and greet. I don't know if everyone's allowed to come and say hello to them.
Yeah.
But I do like that they make themselves accessible because they're kind of a big deal in the magic community, and they could be super Hollywood and super diva and detached. So props to him for making himself like accessible to people in this way and to have human interaction.
Oh yeah.
use of language and complimentary about, honesty and stuff. He said nice stuff. No reason to go into it. He said nice stuff. And then he said, I brought this for you. And he handed me a Gideon Pocket Edition. I thought it said from the New Testament, but I also thought it was Psalms from the New Testament, right? Psalms from the New
Psalms is not from the New Testament, Penn, if you're watching this. Psalms is in the Old Testament. Yeah, so what he's describing is...
He knows there's a new and the old.
he knows a new and old. That, to be fair, I'm not trying to be super critical of him, but to me, it makes me go, how well do you understand the thing you don't believe in if you don't even understand the basics of, like, Psalms is not in the New Testament, right? So what he's getting at is we used to have these, and I probably should get some more. I used to have a New Believers Bible that I want to say had Psalms, Proverbs, and the New Testament in it. These are just Bibles that are usually accessible as kind of like evangelistic tools.
Yeah.
Hey, I got this for you. We'd have them available at the church, and then when someone came to faith, you give them a Bible, New Testament Bible. So what he is interacting with is that he's interacting with someone that was basically on call to go and do evangelism. It wasn't like he gave him something sentimental to him. We have these to give them away to people.
Okay,
that's
was very
what's happening.
intentional.
It was very intentional. This isn't like he gave me his own Bible vibe. Like this is like, no, we have these on hand. If you're in evangelism, you're probably gonna have something like this on hand to give to people.
Part of the New Testament, little book about this big, this thick,
Levi, matter of fact, Levi has one of these in a car right now.
New Testament or an Old
New
Testament?
Testament and Psalms.
Oh, nice.
In front of it. And I wanted you to have this. I'm kind of proselytizing.
Okay, I've never heard anyone in my life use the word proselytizing while they were trying to share Jesus with people.
Big guy.
Big guy.
Big guy proselytizing. Yeah, it sounds like
and that's a very formal word, proselytizing. We would just go sit. We would probably
trying to share Jesus with you.
Sharing Jesus, witnessing, maybe evangelizing. Even that's kind of a big word, but like proselytizing. I just learned how to pronounce proselytizing.
I think this is his account of the events.
Yeah.
If I would assume, it's a little rough around the edges.
Yeah.
And then he said, "I'm a businessman. I'm sane. I'm not crazy."
Hey, that's fair.
Nice caveat.
yeah. Like I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Did all of this, and it was really wonderful. I believe he knew that I was an atheist.
Is he like getting I can't tell if he's getting emotional here, or is he just recounting the story?
I think he's just like one of those like interesting storyteller types.
Yeah, it's hard to tell.
But he was not defensive, and he looked me right in the eyes. And he was truly complimentary. It wasn't in any way, it didn't seem like empty flattery. He was really kind and nice and sane and looked me in the eyes and talked to me and then gave me this Bible. And I've always said, that I don't respect people who don't proselytize. I don't respect that at all. If you believe that there's a heaven and hell and people could be going to hell or not getting eternal life or whatever, and you think that, it's not really worth telling them this because it would make it socially awkward. And atheists who think that people shouldn't proselytize, just leave me alone, keep your religion to yourself. How much do you have to hate somebody to not proselytize?
That's great.
How much would you have to hate somebody to not tell them about Jesus?
Kind of cooking.
This is great. Listen, if you're teaching evangelism, like just play this video.
Yeah. That's a fact. Here's what an atheist
Here's
wants.
what atheists think,
Yeah.
How much do you have to hate somebody to believe that everlasting life is possible and not tell them that?
Come on.
I mean, if I believed, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that a truck was coming at you and you didn't believe it, that truck was bearing down on you, there's a certain point where I tackle you. And this is more important than that.
Yeah.
And I've always thought that, and I've written about that, and I've thought of it conceptually. But this guy was a really good guy. He was polite and honest and sane, and he cared enough about me to proselytize and give me.
What's interesting is that he has made so many character statements about this guy off of one interaction, which to me, if I'm reading between the lines, I think he knows there's something more to this than just. How would you know he's a really good guy? How would you know if he's sane? How would you know any of this stuff based on this one interaction with him?
Well, he also could be describing from an atheist point of view and like an atheist community listening, where he's like, we all have bad interactions with weird Christians. So I'm telling you, this was a normal interaction with a good guy.
Yeah, maybe.
But additionally to your point, I think this is, even though he has the feeling of, which he communicates a little bit later, we'll see, of strong anti-God belief. This is quite literally the definition of like planting a seed. Like, here's a little thing
Yep.
that will guide you.
Yep.
And my character is my witness.
Yeah.
Like you walking away like, wow, really good guy. That was a really sweet, sane guy. And then that creates the how does a normal, super kind guy believe in this?
Big guy.
And he was a big guy.
A Bible, which had written in it a little note to me, not very personal, but just, like your show and so on. And then like 5 phone numbers for him and an email address if I wanted to.
5 phone numbers.
Now,
I love that. 5 phone numbers. That's great.
That's funny.
I know there's no God, and one polite person living his life right doesn't change that.
I know. That's a crazy statement to make. I know there's no God.
This was probably the height of that new atheism era, though.
Yeah.
Where it was like this, like, we got all the answers and y'all don't.
Yeah, I think you're right.
But I'll tell you, he was a very, very, very good man. And that's really important. And with that kind of goodness, it's okay to have that deep of a disagreement. I still think that religion does a lot of bad stuff, but man, that was a good man who gave you that book. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, again, I'm very curious on what grounds does he assume he's a good guy? I mean, listen, and not to beat up on Penn or the atheist worldview, on what grounds do you even have the authority to call anything good or bad?
Yeah.
Anything good or evil? Second of all, how can you proclaim someone to be good from your framework?
Yeah.
Based on he was just kind to you, so therefore,
good vibes.
Good vibes. It's just, the whole entire thing is just very interesting. I think that to your point, yes, there's probably just, hey, he's a cool guy, sane guy, whatever. I want to believe that there's something deeper that he experienced in that interaction with him.
I think you're right, because he even ends with, that was a really good guy.
Really good guy. Yeah, which is a very interesting statement for him to make, sandwiched with, I think religion does a lot of bad, but this was a really good guy.
Yeah.
This really, really, really good guy is trying to get you on the team of something you think is really, really, really bad.
Should tell you something about it.
Sounds incoherent and illogical. Either the thing you think is really, really bad perhaps isn't really, really, really bad, or maybe he's not a good guy, but you're convinced he's a good guy. At the same time, you're convinced that the team he's on is the wrong team. Make that make sense for me.
Yeah, there's a lot of assumption.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So anyway, guys, let me know what you think about that. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, all that good stuff. All right, we're out of here. Peace. I'm excited to bring you guys our very first 3-day conference called the Bless God Summit, happening March 27th, 28th, 29th in Southern California. And at this conference, we'll have your very own Preston Perry.
Me, as an evangelist, I've made it up in my mind that I'm not going to leave people with an excuse not to serve Jesus.
Dr. Sean McDowell.
If there's one thing Christians should care about, it's truth.
Our vision with this conference is to equip, empower, and inspire people to do the work of the ministry that God has for them in this time. And at this conference, we'll have your very own Alan Parr and his wife, Jim Parr.
The number one reason, people want to get divorced because they want to find someone else who can make them happy. Now, what they don't realize, they're chasing the wind.
John McCrae from What Do You Mean?
What you may be shocked, or you may not be shocked to know, is that the majority of Christians in America, they don't know how to articulate the message of the gospel to non-believers.
Lila Rose.
Love and marriage go together, that sex and marriage go together, that sex can bring life into the world. That's an amazing thing. That's not a bad thing.
Trizzle Fitness.
Most people fail at dieting because they're just trying to lose weight too fast. What are you in such a rush for?
But where a lot of people get stuck is figuring out what it looks like to walk in that. And so these 3 pillars of our conference will be covering everything from apologetics to family in the home and the marketplace, and how you can lean into those 3 pillars to discover your calling on this side of eternity.